Today we are here to celebrate the administration of the oath of office to one of the Bureau's finest, and might I add, one of the Bureau's nicest guys. Jesse is a very familiar face to most of you, and he's no stranger to the areas that he's going to be managing. He grew up in El Paso, Texas, attending Texas A&M University, which is, I guess. Maybe we missed something on your resume. But also Texas Tech. Okay, so Texas Tech University. And you know, when he was going to school, his goal was, at the time, was to end up managing a large ranch. Well, I don't know about all of you, but I'd say managing 13 million acres in New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas probably, you know, has met your expectations as far as a large ranch definition.
Texas has been bigger.
Well, Jesse, again, is no stranger to the Bureau of Land Management. He's had a long career in natural resource management, starting with the U.S. Forest Service. As a biological technician, transferring to the BLM in 1981, at age 6, I guess, is that right? Okay. And continuing on with the Bureau of Land Management as a wildlife biologist in southeast New Mexico, where he served for nearly 8 years. He became an assistant area manager in Kingman, Arizona, and later a field manager for the Tucson field office. During his time in Arizona, Jesse worked collaboratively with communities and tribes, finding common ground, which led to the successful establishment of the Los Cienegos National Conservation Area and Ironwood Forest National Monument. And using Jesse's own words, the partnerships that were developed at those areas were phenomenal. And that's what I expect here in New Mexico, building upon the excellent foundation that Linda has laid for us. Jesse then trekked to Washington, D.C., and I guess trekked is a nice word, saying he worked in Washington as the group manager for the National Conservation Areas and National Monuments within the National Landscape Conservation System. And while there, Jesse worked to institutionalize the wilderness, recreation, and trails programs into an assistant directorate within its own right, allowing the programs to receive the needed amount of attention that they deserve. He returned to the land of enchantment, serving as the Associate State Director for BLM New Mexico, where he provided his leadership in many successful endeavors, including the Restore New Mexico program, an aggressive partnership with a straightforward goal to return New Mexico's grasslands and riparian areas to a healthy and productive condition. And folks, let me tell you about Restore New Mexico. It is an excellent program, a very successful program, and one that we're very dependent upon the partnerships that also participate in that endeavor. And it's one that the rest of the Bureau of Land Management can learn from, and we are learning from. So Linda, to you and to Jesse and the many others that have worked in Restore New Mexico, I want to just take a second to thank you, because it's the way that our public lands should be managed for the common good of all. So thank you. You know, from the deep, inspiring canyons of the Rio Grande Gorge in northern New Mexico to the Great Plains in Oklahoma, Jesse will have the privilege of leading our dedicated BLM employees in the protection of beautiful landscapes and the appropriate development of our nation's energy resources. He'll oversee 2 of the top oil and gas generating basins in the country. And I know he'll continue the efforts to develop these resources, creating jobs in a way where we don't have to choose between the environment and our economy. In my very first email that I sent to Bureau of Land Management employees when I became Director of the Bureau of Land Management, I said that I wanted to challenge all of us to aim high, going after things that will make a difference rather than seeking the safe path of mediocrity. I wanted employees to know that common sense should always prevail over bureaucratic processes. And I wanted the employees to know that we should never lose our sense of humor, because it's that sense of humor that gets us through our roughest days. Well, I didn't have to send that memo to Jesse, because he already practiced these trades. And because of doing so, and because of his experience, he is the right person for the BLM State Director job in New Mexico. And we're very pleased that he's accepted our offer to serve in this role. So I'm honored to be here among all of you to recognize Jesse's good work, to recognize the good work from the past, but also that the best days of the Bureau of Land Management and the people that we serve who are dependent upon these public lands are yet to be realized. And they will continue to be realized, or they will be realized under Jesse's leadership. So Jesse, if you'll come up here with your wife of 30 years, Maggie, and I understand that we have your family Bible with us, maybe? Okay. And so Maggie, if you'll come forward and hold this. But before beginning with the oath of office, Maggie, I want to thank you, for loaning Jesse to us and for the sacrifices that you and your family have made so that Jesse could pursue his career goals. And having grown up in the Bureau of Land Management, I understand the impacts to families, so I really appreciate what you've done on behalf of the public that we serve. So Jesse, if you'll hold up your right hand and your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I, Jesse J. June,
I, Jesse J. June,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support
and
defend the Constitution of the United States
defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation. And I have a way of stopping right there. Because I have sworn in a few state directors. And I just want them to repeat that little thing twice. So Jesse, I want to ask you to repeat that again. Without any mental reservation. Okay, or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I am about to enter. So help me God. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jesse.
Bob, thank you very much, and I want to thank all of you again for coming and sharing in this day with me. Many of you I have known for the 8 years that I've been here, and some I've known back when I was here back in the early 80s. If I'm uncomfortable behind the mic, so I'll get out in front of it. I think you all can hear me, but the long and the short of it is I am a Southwest kid. I grew up in El Paso. And when I first talked to my dad after I went to pre-med school at A&M. And after 2 years, I realized I couldn't pass biochem. So I got home and I said, you know what? I heard about this program called wildlife biology. And both mom and dad started laughing. Yeah, that's not about chasing girls, is it? No, it's really a program. So I went through and I got my degree. And then my dad said, well, what are you going to do now? And I talked to him about possibly, hopefully working on a game ranch or some ranch down in Texas that's be my own. Yeah, my wife and I, at the time, I'd gone up to Lubbock and was started a master's. But we went out to this beautiful ranch between Balmorhea and Fort Stockton, Texas. It was beautiful to me. Most people would look at it and go, are you nuts? Which is what my wife said, by the way. And so on our way down, we stopped at a little town called Ina-Ree or something like that, Ida-Ree. And we just went in there to inquire about, she was a teacher. She said, what opportunities? They said, we will offer you a job right now at an outrageous pay.
well, first got to find out if we're going to work here. So they said, stop back by, let us know. Went out to the ranch and talked to these two brothers that had the ranch. And the only time they were there was once for Thanksgiving, and then once for a hunt, during the year. And I thought, okay, well, God, we're going to have this beautiful ranch to ourselves. They had a brick column home built there. I mean, it was gorgeous. And so we asked the guys afterwards, so what about living? I mean, do we need to live in town? Do we live out here? And he goes, we have just the place for you. So we walked through the house, out the back door, and went to this little wood shed. And the guy opened the door, and we walked in, and you could sit on the bathroom seat and put your leg on the bed. And my wife said, no way in hell. And I thank her very much for that. Because I've had the opportunity for 30 plus years to work with the Bureau of Land Management and to work with you guys. And to me, it truly is about working with people, because it's about working with people to be able to do the things that we all need and that we all want. And that's the same thing I'm going to carry forward. We talked yesterday in our management team meeting about the vision, and there's a vision that we created probably about 6 years ago organizationally, and it still holds true for me today. And it's very simple. Be good to your people. Do more for the land, improve the land better than when we got here, and be engaged in your communities. And although they're very simple in nature, they sometimes get very complex when we try to figure that nuance out. But I think if we just carry that message forward, we'll all fare well, we'll all do just fine. So with that, again, I want to thank all of you very, very much for coming and attending the session today. I want to give a big hand to Seymour. Thanks, Seymour, for coming and joining us. Last but not least, I want to thank all of the folks that took the time and the effort to put all of this together, to do the invitations, to make sure the food and the coffee and all of the refreshments here. And I also want to thank my dear wife, Maggie, for putting up with me for 35 years, 30 of that married, mind you. But she has, and Bob is right on. She sacrificed quite a bit. But the family to this day doesn't regret one bit of it. It was a great compilation of experiences, and thank you for that support.